Okay, here we go. Good morning on this fresh Thursday morning. We are in a little bit of a, I don't know if rush is the right word. I have just about 2 hours till I need to leave for work, but we're not used to, that's a little loud, that's the fireplace, but we're not used to having to go too fast in the mornings, except for on Thursday. So, okay, a quick little check in because I have a lot of information I want to talk about regarding the full moon in Taurus. Even though it hit its peak yesterday, we are still in that window. The energy is still very much active and potent, and so I've been contemplating whether or not I want to talk about it, and I did a little write-up, so we're gonna do that. But yes, where I haven't even had my coffee yet. We are preparing it, but oh my gosh, and we got our Miss Smushums. She's a little more, but oh god. Yeah, so Wednesday, we're back to our normal schedule. Oh my gosh, this is all over the place. We're back to our normal schedule since we moved to a second rehab for work, and we're kind of in the in-between with that too, before what is hopefully, fingers crossed, our last stop, where we can kind of settle down and in for a while and not have to keep moving around. So but we're back to our normal schedule, which means we worked late last night and then we get up early Thursday morning to go in the morning. Yeah, so we're just on a little bit more of a time crunch, but it's a pen. This was a gift from someone I loved last year. Okay. I have the same setup on our little, what do you call this, coffee table right now. So we are surrounded by, I had to move our little trinket board. Oops, I just dropped. Let's see, who's this? This is Melody. What else we got here? We got a cinnamon roll. We got these little floof. There's a little good old bonbon. Some shells. Okay, just I had to move that out of the way because I needed a place to put my laptop. All right, let's get into it. We don't want this to go too long. Yeah, I did make a coffee again this morning because when we ordered our coffee a while back, usually what we'll do is we'll get the like smaller size boxes where I think it comes with like, I have the capsules for like the little Keurig, and so we'll get the smaller size, but they were out of them, so they gave us like the jumbo, which is like 48 of them, and so that's why we've been trying to use them up. But and then we do it with these little, these are like plant-based nutrition protein shakes, instead of like creamer or anything like that, and helps keep us full and satiated for a little while in the morning. And then also we tried a new tea recently. This has some interesting flavors in it. I was like, oh yeah, I'd like that. Rose hip, wild apple fruit. I was like, what's the difference between just regular apple and a wild apple fruit? They had to specify, I don't know. Spearmint, blackberry, coriander, bitter fennel, hibiscus, and then it's got ginseng in it. So I had this yesterday for the first time. I liked it a lot. Yes, it would seem kind of counterintuitive though, right? If we're like constantly caffeinating to, it's like ease our stress, the stress that we are inducing upon ourselves from constantly being overstimulated. But we've been winding down, coming out of that vortex or tunnel that it felt like we were in for a while, as things were extra chaotic and busy. So things really have slowed down, but it's like our internal world and external world, catching up and matching. So that's that. Okay. Going on to talk about the full moon here. So yeah, this was yesterday morning, and we had a little surprise yesterday morning right around this time as well. Yeah, that was interesting. Something unexpected. Let's see here. So Taurus is a fixed earth sign ruled by Venus. Love her. And it occupies the second house typically, which represents how we utilize our resources to create stability and comfort in our material world, as well as how these decisions reflect our self-worth and self-reliance. The other thing I was looking at, and other people, within the community have talked about, touching on how Uranus is transiting back into Taurus for the next few months, before its final stay in Gemini for the next 7 years. This is a great time to take a closer look at the karma or karmic lessons associated with these energies and how they're at play in both our personal lives as well as within the collective conscious. I'm just reading from our notes here in Sweet Evernote, and I will probably put this down in the description then. Perhaps, I don't know, maybe a bit much, we'll see. We've been wanting to share more of our writing, specifically like the things that we have been doing behind the scenes in our private life to help ourselves, and also that I have like shared with some people in my personal life and things that we've talked about. And so I thought, I would, as I'm opening up more of like, about who I am and the things that we do and what has helped us over the years, I'm like, this could be a part of it. So this is just like we're playing with it a little bit, but yes, here we go. So karma associated with the second house would have us look at our ethics and responsibilities, particularly in our relationships with or tied to our work and our financial matters. Identify in which areas we are still reliant on others, experiencing patterns of codependency, which that's a whole other like video we want to make on one of these days. But like for my particular pattern or in my chart, my placements, codependency has always been up. We have worked hard to not be as hyper independent as we once were. Like we've become more receptive to like the people around us and to like accepting help and like more fair and equal partnerships with people. But codependency, that has been like, it's one of the most averse things to me. And it's one of the reasons like we are as independent as we are, and we have not partaken or participated in a lot of like other kinds of relationships, particularly the romantic kind, because we cannot, it doesn't work for us. But that's a whole other video. And again, we do believe in like interdependency and being able to like be a reliable person, someone that other people can count on and look to, that we can lean on each other to a certain extent. And obviously like that varies from person to person too. Like we all have various needs and various levels of needs, especially when we are talking about people who have like higher or lower support needs, people who are like have certain disabilities. Like there are lots of different needs, right? But then based like relationship to relationship, we kind of have to tailor, how we get those needs met, and obviously like doing enough of the work on our own to meet our own needs, especially before trying to get them met from another person. But again, that's a whole other video. We're not going to get into that, but I'm just like going to touch on that real quick. So yes, because for me too, right? Like, because I have a Venus in Taurus, it's just all the more like amplified, like codependency, no go. Again, I can stray towards hyper independence, but I try to, be more accepting of help. Thanks. So instead of individuating and learning to be more independent, stepping into our sovereignty, secure within ourselves, and able to collaborate interdependently with others in a healthy, sustainable way, these choices will affect our perception of our own well-being in relation to our success and the accumulated wealth and energies behind what we've built during this time. I just like felt how fast I was talking. I was like, this is silly. And I only had a single sip of coffee so far. Yes, so that's kind of like the little background that we wrote, real succinct. And then I wrote down some of the like light and shadow attributes of Taurus as an archetype. And so for light, we would have things like stability, safety, security, practicality, grounding, prioritizing long-term investments, and fulfilling pleasurable practices. And the more shadow aspects could be materialism, greed, jealousy, envy, possessiveness, excess, risky ventures, and unsafe short-term pleasure-seeking behaviors. And then after that, I put for reflection, oh my gosh, this is where we go nutty. Because I'm just like very reflective as it is. And so, and also it probably ties into like some of our Virgo features again, because we have several Virgo placements where we're just like, it's not that we're all or nothing, but we're very much like, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it with our whole ass, our full ass in it. That's the best way to say it, but you get what I mean. I'm just like, we go hard. We do the thing all the way. So anyways, I separated this into like values, resources, and then stability, and then have like a handful of questions attached that we can use for either just like internal reflections, sitting, meditating on it, or for writing, journaling purposes. And again, I'll like probably list these things down below afterwards. I'm like, do I even want to go through? Yeah. So for values, some questions that we could ask ourselves is, where do I place value in my life? What is most valuable to me? What is least valuable to me? How have the people closest to me, whether family, friends, partners, whatever we want to label them as, modeled their values in our lives? What have we learned from them? How does having similar and or contradicting values affect my relationships, both with myself and with others? And in what ways am I able to align myself more closely to what I value in my life? I just started getting really hot. I think because we're much closer to the fireplace on the ground here, so then while I'm talking, I'm getting uncomfy, but I don't want to turn it off. It's a vibe. Anyways, we're going to keep going. Resources. What are my needs and desires? What resources are available to me at this current time to provide for my own needs? In what ways am I unable to fill my own desires, meet my own needs, or obtain the resources I am currently lacking? How can I create more of what I desire or am in need of? Where am I able to access the assistance I need in gathering more resources? And again, as I'm rattling these off here, for like friends of mine that I've talked to over the years, and specifically about things that are more self-reflective, or where we dive into, more of the deeper, lesser known or like unknown aspects of ourselves, parts that, may be more shadowy or that we find intimidating or scary at some level. I understand through some of it, like my own experiences, but then also through talking with them, how it can be just that. It can be overwhelming to sometimes even think about just one of these things, because of all of the emotional material that can come up, especially if we haven't dealt with certain things, particularly like if it's been like a very long time, or if there's like trauma surrounding it, if we've experienced a lot of shame for certain things, it can be very overwhelming to even begin sometimes to dive into those deeper waters of like what is within us, beyond just like a physical body human being, but in our internal realm and world, into the depths of our minds and hearts. So I understand, but this is just, it's a little bit of what's worked for me, and just sharing. Okay, so the last bit is stability. What makes me feel stable and secure in my internal world? What makes me feel stable and secure in my external world? What practices contribute to the feelings I would like to cultivate? How can I make more room for practicing the things that make me feel good? How can I spend less time practicing the things that make me feel bad? In what ways can I practice balance in my internal and external worlds to enjoy more of what my life has to offer? Ooh, yes. So, and obviously, like, I wouldn't necessarily recommend, and even myself, like, I don't go through and I'm like, 50 million questions, I'm gonna, write, but it's really just like, these are some of the things that came up to, again, like, consider, to think about in regards to these various different areas pertaining to the current energies. So, and I think like the more that we look at certain things in our lives and we take certain actions that align more with who we believe ourselves to be, or who we want to be, how we want our life to look, then it's kind of like the less we have to do this for like rescue and recovery, and more it becomes like a state of maintenance. How do I maintain and keep up, the life that I am living, or the person that I am, it's so that's where we say, like, when things get easier over time, it does, in a sense, right? If that is indeed like something that we want, if we don't want things to be hard and super challenging and difficult forever, if we don't want to like continue to suffer, like, there are things, actionable steps that we can take in our lives to turn the tide in that way. So yes. And I always look at it like from a basic standpoint of like what stands out the most to me in this moment, or what do I feel the most drawn to, what feels like the highest hell yes you know, and what do I have like the least resistance to, you know, like what will be easiest as far as these things go, you know, like we don't necessarily have to dive into the deepest end of the water, right? If we're not familiar with diving or with, what's the word? I was going to say like long distance swimming. I wrote a little thing about my dreams the other day and about swimming in open water and with like marine life and like very deep water. So just, you know, like that's on our mind. It's Scorpio season. It's like all these themes swirling around up in there. So yeah, that's that. And then the other thing, right? So to give some more like personal application, again, I wanted to get like what I wrote and the questions out of the way because that's like the bulk of the matter before my phone dies, because I know it has a habit of doing that because we don't have enough space on our phone, not enough storage. So that's why we're like, we got to go so fast and rattle off here. So we did that. So I'm like, okay, maybe we can slow down a bit. Maybe. You hear the little yippy yappers? Dog. Yeah, so okay, this reminds me then. Let me take a sip. I gotta walk. Actually, no, I don't have to walk the dog till I come back later today, but that's another update. So I think it was in the last video I talked about how we were working on progress with her, like her familiarity with me and like being more comfortable. And so, yeah, we've been back to walking her twice a day. And yeah, so that in that last video, I think she had like gone fully around the block or around the neighborhood with me for the first time. She did it again that evening and then every day since then. So with more ease. And she even let me like put the leash on her myself the other day. And sometimes when I've been calling her, she's been coming over, less like resistance. She still will get kind of like shaky and a little growly and stuff, but it's definitely dampened and died down a bit, which is very encouraging. So, and I just have to be like extra sweet to her and just all the little baby talk, like, yes girl, yes bitch. Like I can't really talk to her like that like I would want to. It's more like, oh, like what do we say? Like she'll shake off when she's done or whatever, be like, oh, good shake, or oh, you know, good girl, whatever. I don't know. But I like, I can't stand doing that, but I'm like, ugh. Even with kids, little kids that we've worked with over the years, I'm just like, I more like talk to them like they're, you know, a human and not a baby, because they're not. Right? But it is what it is, you know, especially when they are carrying the past traumas. Anyways, yeah, and it's been so windy here the last day or so, and so the other night when I took her out to pee, she lifts up like one leg as she's doing it pretty often, and it was windy enough that it like literally was blowing her over, and I just thought it was so funny, like mid pee, like she's probably like pee's literally on her and then she's like on the ground, and I was like, oh god. But we still made our walk, so I'm like, cool, that's fine, winds can't stop us. Yes, so but she reminded me of the person I live with, and then other like Taurian or Taurus figures in our life, right? Because we've had a handful of them over the years. So to give a little bit of more insight into how we look at these things and how I like reflect on it. So I typically will look at like my own Taurus placement, right? Which we have our Venus in Taurus in the 12th house, which is typically ruled by Pisces, which rules over themes of like sorrow, loss, daemon, hidden life, you know. Shout out to Channy for that description. And that house has been particularly active too during our Saturn return. We were looking at those themes and archetypes associated with that during then, because of how it has been aspected and tied into our Pluto, which was heavily activated. And so this full moon for us personally is kind of a like tying up loose ends and wrapping up, you know, the lessons associated with those things. So we, you know, look to the house and that particular placement, and then like I'm looking at what I have learned in regards to that. And so we're looking at like some of the people that have been involved particularly, right? And I've written about some things a little bit. Like one of the first early Taurus figures in our life was my grandmother, who was like our primary abuser growing up, which feels a little strange saying it like this, like one-on-one on video, because we've written about it a lot over the years. And then, not too long ago, we decided to write about it and post it publicly, which was huge for us, just to be like, oh, this is like this is fact, this is true, this is something that happened, without all of the like emotion and like extreme details tied to it. I'm like, this is what it is, right? And so saying it out loud on a form like this, planning to post publicly, is also a little like like all the alarm bells start to go off a little bit, right? But we've come a long way in addressing and overcoming our fears tied to speaking on what is true and the truth of like what has happened in our lives and what we've lived through, which is great, right? On one hand, and be able to do it in a way that is not going to, like, the intention isn't to hurt anyone. It's not to spite them. It's not to seek revenge. The whole thing isn't going to be like about her and our relationship and like that stuff. But I do still very much love my grandmother and the entirety of my family, even though I have no contact with pretty much anyone anymore. I haven't for a long time, in many years, and I feel much happier that way and safer that way. But it doesn't mean there's any lack of love. I have offered both to her and other family members in the past I do still have contact with my mom. Yeah, I love my mom to death, so she's the only one. Shout out, Mom. If she sees this. I think she's only on my TikTok, but I love her. Yes, love my mom. I love all of them, but my mom's the only one who has been able to maintain any sort of like semi-healthy relationship with me and be like continually supportive. So, I've offered that with other people in the past, but if they aren't able to show up and not be abusive, not be unsupportive to me, like on a very basic human level, like not have respect, not, care for my dignity and well-being, like if they are still in their own abusive relationships, or they're in a state of like self-harm towards themselves, where like I then readopt a kind of caregiver role towards them, like that is not healthy and not sustainable long term. And so, we've been separated for a long time, and we've done that out of protection. But there's still, like, when we talk about boundaries with these things, right, there is still like within myself love that I hold for them, care, and like openness or willingness to have relationship potentially in the future, but we're not like so hopeful for it that like we're waiting on it, right? Like our life goes on, but I will always love them despite what they've done. And also talking on this, right, like there have been periods of time in our life, especially when we were younger, that we did not necessarily feel that way. I know when I was still living in that situation when I was younger, I mean, there were times I felt hatred, like very deep hatred, and, have wanted to do some very bad things, So, and when I talked about, being like very acquainted with my own like shadow from a very young age, like it got real dark. And so, there are things just, but I know that it's not easy. I know that it is very hard to face not only those parts of ourselves, but also those things in other people, how they're reflected back to us. So, but that's part of why we're here, right? To show that it can be done, and that you can have a kind of internet friend who has been through it and, is still living like the aftermath of it. So, yes, but my grandmother, as primary abuser, she is a Taurus. And then I have had certain friends in the past who are Taurus. I mean, I typically tend to get along with them, especially like when they're existing in their more light side and not the shadowy aspects. But we had a partner in the past who is a Taurus, who I could say exhibited some more of the shadow, like unconscious parts of it, and so that didn't work out. And then the person that I live with currently is like an Aries Taurus cusp, and I absolutely love and adore them. Yeah. And I kind of, there are certain things in astrology where it's like, I kind of look at the progression of the people in my life and like where they are at in regards to like some of their own like development, right? On like a soul level. And so when I ended up moving where I am now with the person that I'm with, and I found out that they were an Aries Taurus cusp, I was like, oh, it's almost like getting like on that, like, because we were also looking at like the Aries archetype and those figures, because my step grandfather who I grew up with was also an Aries figure, right? And then my old landlord was an Aries, and they're just, different people in my life. So it's like we've been looking at the entire wheel, if you will. But then when I, moved here with my Aries Taurus cusper, I was like, it's perfect, solidifies, like we have, attracted to us, or we have, developed another healthy partnership relationship with someone who I love and adore and respect, and who is those same things to me. Like it's an equal partnership, like it's good, and I feel very safe at home, and just, it's like, oh, yes, bitch. Anyways, I'm taking some coffee. Shit. Yes, so that's another thing we'll look at. I was contemplating like what else we want to go to as far as like more internal. Let's dive into it. Let's see. I'm at 26. I feel like my phone's gonna die any minute, but not die, but like the video's gonna cut off because we don't have enough space. The other thing we can touch on is like hidden life. For me personally, Taurus being my 12th house, hidden life can encompass a lot of different things. It can be like hidden aspects of ourselves, like things that reside in our shadow, or even our light side, hidden talents of ours, hidden enemies, like a lot of different things, right? And I touched on this before last year. Oh my God, my voice was still waking up. I touched on this last year briefly. As far as like hidden enemies go, because for Venus particularly, like my placement being in the 12th house then, and like how my relationships have gone, and particularly my love or romantic relationships have gone over time, this has definitely played a big role, because for me particularly, like how do I go about this? I've been single and celibate for like, I don't know, close to 10 years now. And even before that, like for the majority of my life, basically, other than a couple very brief experiences where I didn't quite know how to fully protect myself or have proper boundaries yet. Like we're talking back when I was like 22, because I'm 32 now, right? So early 20s, like late teens, early 20s, like there was a few years there between like 18 and 22 when I was like getting to know certain people, and again didn't know how to fully protect myself, and so I felt taken advantage of, and experienced some assault, you could even say, and some like grooming type behavior, like all kinds of, and not like anything too extensive or crazy, because we still knew how to protect ourselves to a certain point, and we've had like protective figures around us, but it's just like we know like what we want and what we don't want, and so it's been easier for us to like separate ourselves when things have gone awry, but then we've needed to learn like not to even like get in those situations in the first place. So and one of the reoccurring themes that we found as well is like in regards to like boundaries in relationships and protecting like those hidden, like very sacred, important parts to us, is recognizing that, especially when it comes to love, and not even just romantically, like this can be friendships and family too, like it is true that not everyone in the world is going to love us, like us. Not everyone's going to want to like protect each other. Not everyone is going to be happy for us. Not everyone is going to be supportive. And so things like jealousy can crop up and then lead to either like people around us who will, do things to potentially sabotage, whether that's like themselves or like someone that they like or love. And it's again been like a reoccurring theme in our lives where things can seemingly like start off on a good foot, or there can be like a little momentum going, but then it's like downhill real fast, right? Because someone gets triggered, they're not able to accept like the truth of like certain situations or like the reality around us. And again, when we have a lot of like our own shadow material to sort through, if we don't understand our own triggers, if we don't understand ourselves like on a very core fundamental level, then we're a lot more susceptible to self-sabotage and to hurting not only ourselves but like the people we love. So that has just been, you know, one of the things tied into these lessons, you know, for ourselves that we've learned through experience and also through just like observing people around us, and you know how common it is and how we share in a lot of these experiences in different ways. So yeah, and that's part of the reason, you know, one of the reasons, but again, like having that vision for me too, which we haven't even like gone into full yet, but part of the reason why we've chosen to remain single and celibate for so long, because it just is like one of the most protective things we can do, not only for our body but for our like mind and our heart above all. And I do prioritize my heart and the love that I carry pretty much above and more than anything. So yes, and that is what I believe true self-love is. It's not necessarily about, you know, all the fluffy stuff that we do or like the way that we show off to the world, you know, but it is like who we are at the end of the day, behind closed doors in secret. Like, is that integrity like within us? You know, are we who we say we are? Are we who we truly want to be? Okay, we're gonna, I think, leave it there, and I'm gonna get to uploading this. Okay, happy full moon. Love all my Tauruses. That's all. Okay, yeah, I'm just done. Okay. Tink, tink. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye.